Hello everyone, welcome to my channel Middleware Technologies. Today we'll be looking at how we can set up an NFS server using Vagrant and Ansible. Okay, so here in this article, what we are trying to do is we'll be trying to set up an NFS server using Vagrant as a virtualization environment and Ansible, which is going to be provisioning that NFS server in that Vagrant virtual environment. And once the NFS server is set up, we will try to mount the NFS shares that we have configured on that NFS server from the NFS client, and try to see like how different NFS server NFS mounts behave. Like we will try to see like read-write mount and read mount, and see how they the mounts behave when they are like access it from the NFS client servers. Okay, so let us see like how we can do this setup in this video. Okay, so I'm currently working on Fedora 37 workstation. So basically, like I have my Vagrant with libvirt virtualization, libvirt KVM virtualization setup ready. If you do not have this setup, like let's say like if you have a Vagrant with VirtualBox environment setup, like it is even try it on that environment also. But if you do not have that, you can check out my other video wherein we have seen how we can set up Vagrant with libvirt as a libvirt and KVM as a virtualization backend. Okay, so let's see like what exactly is NFS. Okay, so NFS as abbreviated like network file system, it allows us to access a network file share or a file system on a partition or a disk from a remote machine, as if that partition is available locally on that machine. Okay, so let's say like you have an NFS server wherein you have created some disk, and you have shared that disk using the NFS services. Okay, so that disk can be available on your machine, like your local machine, as if that is a local disk itself. Okay, so that is the whole purpose of what is NFS. Okay, and NFS is primarily used in private networks. So wherein you want to share some kind of binary files or data files with your internal organization members. So it is basically primarily utilized for sharing the data within your organization in a private network. Okay, and as of now, like we have NFS version 2, 3 and 4 which are supported by kernel 2.6 and later. Okay, so you will need at least a kernel of version 2.6 and above, which supports NFS 2, 3 and 4 versions. Okay, so that is in brief about what is NFS. Okay, now let us see like what are NFS daemons. Okay, so NFS daemons are services which are basically used to utilize the NFS service, NFS as a service. Okay, so let's say like whenever you are installing NFS, there are a couple of services that are automatically started in the backend, which you can notice it when you try to like look for the processes that are started in the backend. Okay, so here are some of the important processes that I would like to give a brief description about. So the first one is NFSD. So this is the most important daemon, NFSD, which basically provides the network file share which handles the basically file system requests from the client. Okay, so basically, like whatever network the file system that we have shared using the NFS server, these file systems, whenever there is a request for these file systems, that request is catered using the NFST daemon. Okay, so that is the first daemon. So let's go to the next daemon, that is mount D. Mount D is basically is a daemon that handles the mount requests. Okay, so whenever like so let's say like you have an NFS share ready. So whenever a client tries to request for a mount, basically trying to mount that file share onto that local file system, that request goes to this daemon, that is mount D. Okay, so that is the whole purpose of mount D daemon. Okay, now let us go into the auto mount D daemon. So this is basically a daemon that may be installed like or started when if we want to use it. Okay, so let's say let's say on a client machine, like you have a mount, so you want a mount to be loaded on the reboot of the machine whenever the machine is rebooted. So you can configure it in etcfs tab and it will start up. Okay, the daemon that handles the mounting and unmounting requests from AutoFS service. Okay, so auto mount is basically like when you want to load your mounts automatically whenever the server reboots. Okay, so for that we need to have the auto mount D service, auto mount D daemon running on the backend. Okay, now let us go into the next one, that is log D and stat D. So these are basically advanced daemons which are used in the latest NFS services, wherein it provides us with the facility of locking the files which are being accessed, and stat-D basically provides us with the statistics of the NFS services on the backend, like how the read-write is happening and how many bytes are getting transferred and retrieved. So that kind of statistics can be provided using the stat-D. Okay, and the last one, quota D, is basically it provides information about the quota on the file share by respective users for like the remote users. Okay, so let's say so every user on the client side is allowed to only use a particular amount of file share disk size. Okay, so that is basically like providing some kind of a quota to the user who is accessing the file system on the NFS server. Okay, so these are some of the daemons that are actually installed or started whenever NFS service is running. But there are a few daemons which are not automatically started, but they are installed. They are not started, but they are installed. Okay, so we will see like what NFS services get started when we install and start up the NFS service as a default. Okay, now let us go into the steps that we are going to follow in order to set up our NFS service using Vagrant and Ansible. Okay, so for this, so the first step is installing the NFS utils. Okay, so NFS utils is the NFS utils is basically a package which provides a set of services or daemons which we can use. Along with that, it also provides us with a set of utilities which can be used to access our NFS services or NFS daemons which provide that services. Okay, And the NFS utils by default comes with a daemon for kernel NFS server. Okay, so kernel NFS server is a type of server that is provided by NFS utilities, which provides much higher performance level of performance than the traditional Linux NFS server. Okay, so let us see like how we can install the NFS utils on a Fedora uh, server. Okay, so for this, let me go into my shell, and here, so this is my uh, project structure. So let me show you my project structure. So as you can see, like we have Ansible with a playbook, and we are going to call the following roles. So these are the roles that I am going to call from the playbook in order to provision by NFS server. And this is readme file basically contains the instructions for this NFS server setup, and this is my Vagrant file which will help us in like setting up our development environment and provision it using the Ansible provisioner. Okay, so let us try to see our Vagrant file first. So here is my very basic Vagrant file wherein I am using the Fedora 38 image, and I'm providing my virtual virtual server, the host name that is fednfs.stack.com, and we just wanted to ensure that we are exposing the NFS service port, that is 2049, which is the primary port that is listening for NFS service requests. Okay, and like we are going to use our current directory and copy the files into Vagrant, that is home Vagrant, and from this is basically from local directory to the virtual environment. Okay, so that is basically syncing the files from our local environment current directory to the virtual environment or the virtual server. Okay, and if you can see this section, that is the provider section, we have used libvirt, and I have configured the virtual machine to have 2 CPU cores and memory of 2048. Okay, and coming to the provisioner, like we are using Ansible as the provisioner, and we are going to call this playbook in order to set up our Ansible, set up our NFS server on the Fedora 38 image. Okay, so this is our basic Vagrant file that we are going to utilize in order to set up our server, NFS server. Okay, so now let us see like the first task, that is installing the NFS service. So for that I am going to so let me show you the Ansible playbook first. So you can see this is my Ansible playbook, wherein I am going to configure this or install this playbook, run this playbook on the NFS server with the root user, and we are going to install or set up the following rules. Okay, so let us try to understand the first rule, that is NFS install server. So for that, so let me go into roles, Linux NFS install server, tasks, main.yaml file. So here, like you can see, like the first task that we are doing is we are trying to install the NFS utils package, and then we want to ensure that the NFS service is enabled and running. Okay, so it basically starts the NFS service and enables the service. So it basically starts up whenever a server is rebooted. Okay, so that is the very basic thing that we need to do in order to set up the NFS server. Okay, so now that we have installed our NFS server and started the service, the next thing that we are going to do is after installing the NFS service, like we can see like the set of config files and utilities that are installed on the server, so that we will check using this command once we have set up the NFS server using Vagrant. But for now, like, let's ignore that step. Let us go into our next step, that is stopping the NFS service. So here, like we are going to stop the NFS service so that we can try to configure it as per our requirement, and then we can start up the service. Okay, so for that, let us go into our NFS shell and try to like look at the NFS stop service role. So this is my role which we are going to call in order to stop the NFS service. Okay, so basically we are calling the service task service, and we are going to stop the NFS service. Okay, the state is stopped basically means like we want to ensure that the service is stopped. Okay, so now that we have stopped our NFS service, let us try to see like how we can take the backup of the NFS server. Okay, so the backup of the NFS server can be many things, like we can take the config backup which is present in the etc. So the config backup, like we can take the config backup of the default NFS service, like it is present in the /etc. But the important file that we want to configure when we are trying to set up the mount files is etc exports file. Okay, so we are going to try to take a backup of this file before we try to do any configuration changes. But by default, whenever the default installation is done, the /etc/exports file is empty, so there is nothing in that file. But let's say if you have configured some of your mounts, it is better to take a configuration backup, that is the exports backup, before we try to configure it again with a new NFS mount points. Okay, so let us see like how we can take the backup of that config in our next role. Okay, so let us try to open the Ansible role, that is config Linux in NFS config backup tasks main.yaml file. So it basically takes the backup of the following path that is there in the variable sections. We will try to look at it. So this basically takes a complete backup of that file using the cp-pr command, and it takes that backup into the backup location. Okay, so let us try to see like what are those nfs underscore config and nfs underscore config underscore backup variables that we have defined in the vars section. So let me open the vars main.yaml file. So as you can see, the nfs config is configured to etc exports file, which we want to take the backup, and the nfs config backup is configured to the following mount, wherein that file gets backed up. Okay, so that is the purpose, that is the thing that we are going to do using the configure backup. Okay, so now let us go into our next step, that is step 4, that is starting the NFS service. So here we are going to so the next step is sharing the NFS file system. So here what we are going to do is we are going to configure our NFS service, like configuring the mounts, the file system directories that we want to share using the /etc/exports file. Okay, and we are going to create some we are going to update our etc exports file and see how we can start up the NFS service. Okay, so let us see this task wherein exactly what we are doing is we are trying to set up the NFS service. Okay, so let me go into my shell and open the config update tasks. Okay, so here the first thing that I'm doing is I'm trying to create a group user group that is admin, and then I'm trying to create a user that is admin, and the third task that I'm doing is ensuring a shared directory is present. Okay, so basically what it means is I'm trying to create a directory which I want to share as a NFS share. Okay, so that directory we want to ensure that it is present and it is owned by user admin and group admin. Okay, and we are giving the permissions that is to the directory as 744. Okay, now let us create another directory that also we want to share, but that is called NFS other directory, which is again also owned by admin and group admin, but with permission 744. Okay, so now that we have two directories present, let us try to create. Now we are going to configure the NFS share directory with some dummy files. That is, here we are going to create a file with content hello NFS share test server in NFS share directory, and we are going to provide with admin ownership onto that share directory. And then we are going to create another file that is in the other directory, that is hello NFS server test in other, and we are going to provide the same permissions, that is admin onto that other directory, which is going to be a shared directory. And now once the users are created and the directories are created and the files are created on that shared directory, we are going to configure the NFS service, the exports, the file systems that we want to export using the export file, which we are going to copy from a template, that is exports.j2 template. Okay, so let me open that template for you. So let us go into our templates in that config update role and open the templates, that is exports.j2 file. So here you can see like we have two mounts that we want to share, that is NFS share directory and the other one is NFS share other directory, and we are going to provide access to those shares for the following client IPs. The first share is going to be read-only access and the other share is going to be read-write access. Okay, so that is the two shares that we are going to create. And now let us go into the vars and look at the variables that we have utilized in our task. The NFS share directory is going to create /share /stack directory, and the NFS other directory is going to create /share /other directory. Okay, so that is the thing that we are going to do is with NFS config update. Okay, so now let us go into our document and let us see the other step, that is starting the service. Okay, so here like once our configuration is done, we are going to start the NFS service. So let us see like how we can start the NFS service using the task. So like here we are going to start the NFS service and ensure that the state is started. Okay, so that is as simple as starting the NFS service. Okay, now let us see like how we can so now that we have seen like how we can set up the NFS server, so let us try to start up and set up the NFS service using Vagrant up. Okay, so this is going to start up our development environment using the Fedora and try to configure that Fedora server with the Ansible provisioner and try to set up the NFS service. Okay, so let us give it some time and see like what it comes up with. Okay. So now you can see the Vagrant service, the Vagrant environment is up and running. So it has installed our NFS server, configured it. So you can see that the following tasks have been executed on the Vagrant server. So it has installed installed the NFS server. It has started the NFS service. Okay, and then it has stopped the NFS service as per our playbook description. Then we are going to take the backup of the NFS service. Then so this is taking the backup. Then we are going to update the configuration, that is we have created a user, we have created a user group, we have created a group, we have created a user, we have created the directories, and we have created some dummy files in those shared directories, and we have configured our NFS service exports file. Okay, so these are all things that we have done in our role, that is Linux NFS config update, and then we have started the NFS service using this role. Okay, so now that we have our NFS service up and running, let us go into the Vagrant environment, that is you SSH into that server and try to do ps-ef grep NFS, and you will see like our NFS daemon is started. Okay, and the other thing that we can check is rpc info -p. This will show all the NFS ports that are listening. So you can see 2049 and 52956 are some of the NFS ports that are listening, and port mapper is basically used to configure the ports that are used by the different NFS daemons. Okay, so this is some basic information that you can check to make sure that your NFS service is up and running. Okay, now let us go into our documentation and try to see like how we can mount the NFS share from a client machine. Okay, so for that now let us go. So this is our NFS share which is available on Fed NFS. Now let us go into our client machine. So this is my client machine, where we are going to check what all NFS shares are present on that NFS server using the show mount command. So like this. Okay, so here you can see like the Fed NFS is sharing the following mounts, that is share other and share stack. Okay, so you can see these are listed in this show mount output. Now let us try to create two directories wherein we want to mount our NFS shares. Okay, so for first directory that we are going to create is var temp stack, and the other directory that we are going to create is var temp others. Okay, and these two directories like we are going to use to mount the NFS share. So let us see like the first one. So we are using this command mount to mount the type of file system, that is NFS, from server Fed NFS. Like we are going to mount /share/stack onto var temp stack. Okay, so this is one thing that we are going to mount, and similarly like we are going to mount the other mount onto the other directory. Okay, so now we have our two mounts that are two mounts, that is share stack and share other, mounted onto our local client, that is on the var temp stack and var temp other directory. Okay, now let us see like we can check whether our NFS mount is NFS mounts that we have mounted on our local system have been mounted correctly or not using the mount -t NFS4 command. Okay, so it will show like what all NFS mounts are configured on your local server. Okay, so this is how like you can look at it, And now let us see like what we can do with the NFS share files. Okay, so let us try to so here you can see like we have already these files present. Okay, let me clear my screen, and you can see the var temp stack has LONFS file with this content, and the var temp others mount has this NFS share file with the following content. Okay, now let us try to edit these files. So you can see like I'm trying to edit the, so let me clear my screen. Now let us try to edit the file on var temp stack. Okay, so this file system is basically a read only file system. Like if you see the exports.js file, like we have configured this file system that we want to share via NFS to be a read-only file system. So any client who is trying to mount this NFS share, they can only read this file system. So they cannot modify or change any files on that file system. So that is the reason like you are getting this error, read-only file system. Okay, now let us try to edit the file on the other directory, that is other file share. Here we are going to modify the file var temp others LONFS others.txt file, and you can see this file gets edited because the mount that we have mounted on var temp other, okay, the /share/other NFS share is read write. Okay, so we are able to modify the file on that NFS share. So if you go into the NFS server and look at those shares, so let us go into /share/others. Okay, so that is owned by admin user. So let me go into as a root and try to check these files. So /share/others, and you can see the LNFS others, like the content has been edited on the NFS share. So that is the whole purpose of how to configure the NFS share. Like you can configure the mounts as per your requirement, like whether you want the NFS share file systems to be read only or read write. So it depends on your requirement, and you can configure it as per your requirement in the etc exports file. There are some other important files that I wanted to share show you. So let us try to look at it. Now that we have installed our NFS service, so let me show you the content of the NFS utils package. So here, like basically what I am trying to do is I am going to list out all the files in the NFS utils package, and from there I am just removing the user share and user lib directories, userlib.build id directories. So it will show you all the files that are installed on your machine. Okay, so you can see like the /etc contains the NFS configuration files for different services or daemons, you can say, and there are some files which can be edited using the utilities also. So let's say like if you look at the NFS config utility which is there in user has been so this utility can be used to configure the NFS config. Okay, and if you see the user has been directory, it contains a lot of utilities like NFS stats utility, which provides the NFS service statistics, and NFS config, which is used to configure the NFS and try to see if there is any configuration mistakes in that. Okay, so export FS is another utility which is primarily used to expose your file system that you want to share from the NFS service. Okay, so basically whenever you try to restart your NFS service, the export file system is automatically called in order to expose your NFS file shares. Okay, so let's say like if you do not want to restart your NFS service, like you can use this export fs command. Basically, so let me show you the command in the bottom. So you can run the export NFS command and try to expose your file system also without restarting the NFS service. Okay, so that is also possible using this utility. Okay, so there are other utilities also that you can explore, the like the statd statd so this is basically a library. Okay, but we have show mount utility that we have used, which basically tries to list out all the mounts that are available on the NFS server. Okay, so you can try to explore more on this utilities and the daemons that are basically started whenever the NFS service is running. Okay, so there's one more thing that I wanted to show you: systemctl status NFS server. So if you do the status of this, so it is showing as active. Okay, but it is exited, so we can start up that when we want to use it. But let us try to explore this file. Okay, NFS service. So here you can see this NFS server, like whenever we are going to start, it requires the NFS Mounty service to be up and running, and there are these service that it depends on, but they are not tightly required, but they are the weak dependencies. Okay, so even if those services are not starting up for some reason, the NFS server can be up and running with just the Mounty service, which is a prerequisite to start the NFS server. Okay, so this is all I wanted to show you in this video, like how we can configure the NFS server using Vagrant and Ansible, and try to set up a very basic NFS server with two shares. That is, one is read write, the other one is read only, and see how we can access those NFS shares from the client machine. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed watching this video. Thank you all. Thanks for watching this video, and you guys have a great day.